Well, a very good evening to you all, race fans. Welcome back to Simple Racing Broadcasts. And, of course, once again, welcome back to Alliance Sim Racing Gard Supercar Championship. Season 9 kicked off last week with an amazing opening round, despite the issues we might have had with our broadcast. We are back in full stream quality once again this week for round 2. And we start our run of Australian circuits from here right through to round 8. And, of course, it kicks off tonight at the Bend. Shell Bend Motorsport Park awaits. It's a complicated little track and it's not even the longest layout. We're going to see that a little bit later in this season, but for tonight we stay with the international circuit that is so familiar to very, very many viewers out there, I'm sure, from just a couple of seasons ago when ASR were last here. My name's Jared Cole. In the booth with me tonight, as always, Isaac Fogarty. G'day Isaac, welcome back once again for another week of some pretty awesome V8 action.
Yeah, good evening, Jared. Good evening, everybody watching along at home. It's an absolute pleasure to be back in the booth once again with yourself, calling what proves to be time and time again one of the most exciting V8 supercar series on iRacing, and indeed pretty much out there at the moment in general. There is no shortage of things to keep us busy in this combox, as we saw last week. But, you know, we jump into the Australian run now, all the way through to, as you said, round 8, when we head back over to America, to Detroit and to Belle Isle. But for now, we're going to kick things off at the Bend. Almost looked like for a while we were going to bookend our Australian tour with the Bend as well, but they've actually swapped the calendar around a little bit, and Bend is actually going to be, we're going to be back here in round 5, so only in 3 weeks' time, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, as you said, this layout synonymous with supercars and even ASR as well. They've been here a couple of times in the past couple of seasons ago, but everyone that watching along should know this layout fairly well. Not as long as you mentioned, only about a minute 52 for a lap around here, so not that long, you know, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. I can't wait to see how long the GT circuit's going to be for these cars, but for now we have this layout to focus on, and hopefully it should provide a bit of a different challenge this week for our drivers than we saw last week in Mexico.
Yeah, no doubt it will. Tonight's format, lone qualifying going on right now. First race, a sprint, 10 laps around this circuit, followed up by a 30-lap feature race tonight. 2 compulsory pit stops to be made with the reverse top 5 grid to take into account, and a 70% fuel limit, which I imagine might see a bit of a recurrence of people trying to really extend that out and make that last pit stop a very, very short affair. If you're not familiar with getting around the Bend, guess what we've got for you tonight? This is, of course, a throwback to Season 7. Our good friend Josh Harris, who you may remember from the booth, oh geez, going back a few seasons now, but he's been here a few times, and he was kind enough to set us up with our track preview. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Before we get into that, though, the championship standings after one round: Brian Borg out in front ahead of Mark Poynton and Will Buchanan. Troy Stonestreet not too far off the back, as well as Jason Bentz. Darryl Callahan, the best place of the Cup Trophy drivers, ahead of Jace Douglas, with Nick Geary a little way down, but only one round in. It's still very, very early days. A handy little lead for Brian Borg, though, to start off his championship campaign after just the one round. Let's take a drive around here. Let's go and check out the Bend with Josh Harris as he takes us around.
Well, welcome everybody along for a ride of the Bend in the Gard Ford Mustang as we get ready for round 1 of season 7 of Alliance Sim Racing, kicking off tonight. Big long straight here at the Bend to start things as we pop up over the crest, hard on the brakes all the way back to second gear as we get to the apex of turn 1. Little short shift up into third gear through turn 2, and then making sure that we get to the apex of turn 3, using as much of the road as we can on the exit and accelerating all the way back to 5th gear. Little lift off the throttle just to make sure that we get the turn in that we need, and then back into it as hard as we possibly can, as early as we dare. Big braking zone here as we come towards the long left-hand hairpin, all the way back down to second gear, and now accelerating back up to 4th gear. Well, this seems like a never-ending series of right-handers, all taking it between 170 and 180 k's an hour. It's fast, it's difficult, it's a dance between throttle and brake to make sure the car gets into each of those corners. Back into third gear now, and really just making sure that we set ourselves up. Important run here, making sure we don't run wide into the grass there and get wheel spin. up over this little hill and back down to third gear, setting ourselves up for what is one of the most difficult corners on the whole track. Really managing the oversteer on the way out there as we come up over the hill. Double left-hander here, and once again managing that oversteer. Lots of undulation here at the bend. It's a really fantastic track. Back on the throttle again, and we're making sure that we get all the way up to speed, and then we're hard on the brakes for the second last corner, the most difficult on the whole track. Really hard to get the throttle down on the way out here. Up to third, no need to change again. Little tap on the brakes, get all the way into the apex, and then hard on the throttle as early as possible on the way out. Beautiful big long straight here to have a bit of a break and have a think. That is a lap of the bend. I hope you enjoyed it. Sit back and relax. It's going to be a fantastic night of racing, and I can't wait to see you all again next week.
And as always, we'll work a feature of any V8 Supercars race. Everyone's starting to grid up now. Let's take a look at how they qualified around this layout. Brian Borg and Troy Stonestreet will take the front row ahead of Phil Manuel and Dean Logsdale. Then Chad Vigar and Mark Poynton on row 3, with Will Buchanan and Trav Daly on row 4, Ricky Hyde and Nick Geary rounding out the top 10. Further back, Hoffman and Powell line up alongside each other on row 6, then Chapman and Hardy ahead of Varga and Burns. Abel Verban and Jamie McKnight on row 9, with Joel Lustaval and Brett Horsell on row 10. Behind them, Josh Harris and Alistair Bales ahead of Rick Varga and Dara Callahan. Then Tommy DeWitt and Scott Perrins ahead of Troy Sipple and Ash Hall. Brad Hayes and Craig Rose rounding out your top 30. Behind them, Jace Douglas, the last driver to set a time. Jason Bentz and Kyle Cunningham not setting times at this stage. Todd Martin and Lucas Burt in race control, ready to jump in the safety car if need be. Look, I don't know that we're going to need it here tonight. It's the bend, Isaac. There's not exactly a huge number of places where we're likely to see cars interfere with the running of the race, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The stranger things have happened, and we always say we've got two races here at ASR tonight, a 10 lap and a 30 lap race. Race 1, always nice and calm, a little bit chill. Nothing major happens. Race 2, the gloves come off. We usually see a safety car. Even on the circuits, you wouldn't typically think we would see a safety car. So I would not be surprised to see an appearance from the Chubby Buns car at some point this evening. But for now, we're not too far away, I believe, from getting all the cars on the grid ready to go. We're just waiting on a handful more before we get that green flag.
Yeah, a little way to go. Yeah, we're still waiting on Luke Powell in 12th. To grid up. Jason Bent's not on grid yet, neither is Kyle Cunningham, so we'll have to wait and see if they are going to start from the straight or from the pits. Still about 30 seconds or so to go before we get underway tonight. I don't know. I reckon this is one of those circuits where we won't see the usual softly approach into turn 1. There's a lot of space down this main straight, and I reckon if you get a good run at this, we'll have plenty of drivers who are looking to perhaps make the most of that and get out in front early. But it's a track that really punishes supercar tyres, especially that long right-hander that does really take a few goes to get through smoothly. But hopefully by the time we get round there tonight, we are all in single file by that stage at least. We should be just about ready to go, just getting the clearance from race control. We have the green flag at the back of the field, so here we go, folks. Race 1 of round 2 is about to get underway. The lights are out and we are off towards turn 1, and a brilliant start there in the mid-pack from a number of drivers. Got away off the line very, very cleanly as we head on down to turn 1, and here comes the pack led by Brian Borg. Phil Manuel still in behind. He's picked up a spot and looking to maintain that early. Up the inside, Mark Poynton as well, as Dean Logsdale gets a little bit of a move done, and everyone just tries to get themselves sorted out into turn 2. They're still 2 and 3 wide through this opening S, but it looks like we might, and I don't want to get in there too early, but it looks like we might actually survive this one. At least a clean opening lap once again this week. Still plenty of time to go and plenty of racing to be done between here and the end of 10 laps. Brian Borg continues to lead them away, though. No one getting really any advantage at this early stage, Isaac. It's been pretty tight. A bit of a dive up the middle there from what looks like, is that Brett Horsell getting mixed up in the middle there? I'm not quite sure. But a few cars still trying to sort out their order, and they need to get it done quickly before they get into these right-handers.
Yeah, everyone's going to have to fight for real estate as we come in towards the right-handers. This is a key part of the circuit that you don't want to be caught side by side, and especially with how quickly you have to turn back towards the right-hand side. We can see a couple of cars there side by side. They'll want to sort that out very, very soon. Again, making sure as they get through here, they leave a little bit of space as well. You can see a couple of cars still going side by side in the background. Getting used to as well some of the new liveries we have out there. Jared Cole, there's new faces, some new names, but also some familiar names in different paints. So it's making sure we get our head across it as the season starts to roll in, and it's only round 2, so they're still trying to work out who is who at the zoo on occasion. Brian Borg, though, hard to miss him at the front of the field right now. He is leading the way quite comfortably. Over half a second back to Phil Manuel. He's trying to disappear into the distance as they come down round to complete lap 1. So fairly quick, 2 minutes gone by. There's a bit of an incident going on here in the background with Josh Harris. Paul Burns looks like he was caught up in that as well. Jason Bent's already up into 22nd place, by the way, folks. He is moving, and Kai Cunningham not starting this one, so potentially not making an appearance this evening, it seems.
Yeah, it does look like might not be a shower for tonight, but you know, there's always race 2, or indeed catching up from behind. Out in front, Brian Borg, Phil Manuel still in that 1-2 spot. Troy Stone Street just off the back. Mark Point and Will Buchanan not far behind either, and they're starting to open up just a little bit of a gap. There's not much in it, but when you look at how close this field is, the top few are really starting to separate themselves. The real gap forming just about here. Ricky Hyde, the 801 sim racing entry in P9, has a bit of room himself to Nick Geary and James Hardy behind, but then there's this massive just glut of cars that are all still within a couple of tenths of each other right the way down through to, well, pretty much 28th in the field. Jace Douglas had an early off alongside Darryl Callahan as well. Jason Bentz, the question being asked, what happened to Bentz? Look, didn't qualify in short. Found himself at the very back of the field, and I don't know, maybe he's just into these last to first challenges we keep seeing everywhere, and he's decided to make that his approach for the season. I don't know. It's certainly put him on a bit of an uphill battle though here at the Bend tonight. Borg, Manuel, Stone Street, Point and Buchanan, nothing to separate at the moment, although Buchanan's starting to really push into the territory of Mark Poynton here. Wants that P4 spot and just looking to put a little bit of pressure on as they come around to complete this second lap. All very tidy still, but that will start to unravel as the tyres do get a bit of heat into them and lose a little bit of that famous first 2 lap grip.
Yeah, it's certainly going to start to play a factor as we get stuck into this race, and that will certainly continue to play a factor as we get deeper into the race later on. Here we go, 3 wide, maybe 4. There's a little bit of touching between the two of them. This could end in tears. It does. They're in the wall. Massive hit for Abel Verban into the inside pit wall, and that is not going to help the aerodynamics of that Chevrolet Camaro at all. I missed who he had the contact with, but it was fairly heavy. And it was always going to end in tears. He was squeezing into that pit wall, and he found out the hard way. What happens when you run someone out of room and they've got nowhere to go? No one's going to back out here in this situation, and as a result, contact and massive hit into the outside pit wall for Abel Verban, and that will not be happy. Here we go side by side with Josh Harris and Andrew Hoffman as well. Here comes up the inside Stephen Varga to get a piece of this action as well. Parks the car in front of Hoffman. Josh Harris is going to drive away from the scene, holding on to the position that he had, but Andrew Hoffman, who was going for a move up into 16th, has now found himself dropping down into 18th.
Once again, the mid-pack battle proving to be where all of the action is here tonight, and you can see in the background Jason Bentz trying desperately to follow his quantum teammate through here. Incidentally, Stephen Varga was the one involved in that incident with Abel Verban, so it'll be interesting to see what comes of that, if anything, from race control. We'll go back and we'll take a look in just a moment. This is definitely where the action is though, folks. Josh Harris leading this group of cars. Varga, Hoffman, Bentz, Burns, Lustaval, Rick Vigar all in it, and not a whole lot to separate them. That was an interesting little moment, and they've just settled it down again for the run here, but I don't think it'll be over. Have a look at Bentz on the back of Hoffman. He's going to have a look up the inside here, late under brakes, sends it up the inside, and now it's a quantum pairing in the middle here. with Stephen Varga in 17th, Jason Benz in 18th, and both of them looking to move much further up through this one, out towards the front. Mark Poynton finds himself under pressure. Big lock-up of brakes from Will Buchanan behind. That's going to send him just a little bit wide, and he loses contact with the front four. That's the first error we've seen out in front so far this evening. It does leave him in a little bit of no man's land, but he'll put the work in and no doubt be right back up there with them in no time.
Yeah, looking at his times, he's certainly got the pace out there right now. Will Buchanan, he will close that back up in no time at all. It's also not a massive loss. We go battling, continuing on with Sting Logsdale that we are following along with. He is currently side by side with Trav Daly. So these guys 7th and 8th place. Chad Vigard just in front, qualified very well. Does seem to like this place, Chad Vigard. So he's had a really good result in qualifying, setting up for the race up the inside now. Trav Daly trying to get that spot back from Dean Logsdale and does in fact get it. Dean did qualify. Looking at my notes, Dean is down 3 spots, qualified in 4th. So this is actually a bit of a backwards trend for Dean Logsdale. We saw him last week at Mexico struggling as well a little bit. So the car seems to be really agreeing with him over one lap, Jared Cole, but hasn't been able to quite find the race pace out of these setups just yet. So maybe not as comfortable as he would like over an extended period of time. I'm sure that will change as the season goes on. He gets more comfortable. We didn't see Dean last season, so he's been out of the car in terms of ASR hours for a little bit, which, given that we use specific setups here at ASR, maybe using different setups in any other league that he's been racing in. So trying to adjust to the different ways the cars are set up across different leagues can be challenging. He's doing a good job though so far, despite going a little bit backwards. This is Stephen Varga up the inside of Josh Harris, and a little bit of door banging if you don't mind, and as a result Stephen Varga finds himself with a half spin, almost facing the wrong way, gets it straightened up, but has lost a heap of positions there. That is a large number of positions that he has fallen.
Yeah, down into 20th at the moment, so all of the progress he's made coming undone with that little bit of contact there. Not a great view of it for us, but I'm sure the steward's having a look just to see that all was well. We might go back and see if we can have a bit of a look at the contact between Abel Verban and Stephen Varga earlier on as well. Let's see what the Chubby Buns replay has for us here. And you watch this as he come onto the main straight. Look at him, 3 wide ahead. Varga gets just kind of stuck over to the side, and Verban gets a little bit of a nudge across from Hoffman there. Nowhere to go, maybe just didn't quite know that Varga was there, but just turns himself across the front of the car and ends up definitely coming off the worst of that. And look at everyone just fly past as they're at top speed down that straight.
Yeah, they are. But they get a lot of speed down the front straight, so the speed difference can be quite a lot. We're looking now at Troy Stone Street. So this is the battle back in 3rd place. Brian Borg trying to disappear from this little front group, and Phil Manuel trying to do the same, while these three, as Will Buchanan has finally closed back up. Mark Poynton as well involved in this, battling for the last spot on the podium. Remember, folks, it's only race 1. We're on lap 5, so about halfway through. Time flies when you're having fun. That is certainly for sure. But we'll go for a reverse top 5 here in this race. So at the moment, as it stands, Will Buchanan will start from pole. 5-second penalty for car 99 for contact with car 137. So that is Jason Douglas for contact with Callahan on lap number 1. So that has come through as a 5-second penalty that he will have to cop post-race. Jason Benz has just found his way past Josh Harris as well and moves up into 16th spot. So he is charging through the field right now, up 16 places already in this race, and will continue to move forward as the evening goes on. This is a replay of what happened with Jace Douglas, as another 5-second penalty also comes through for car 13, and that is a bit of awkward contact between those two, and then spears through. That is a massive hit to the side of Callahan, spears them both off the road, and I believe that was car 13 that got the drive through the 10-second penalty, the 5-second penalty that just came up on our screen. So Craig Rose
for contact with Brad Hayes.
There you go.
Not quite sure where that one was, but it's happened somewhere along the line. Back on lap 1 though, so a very, very early incident. We'll see if we can find that one. This is, where are we? Craig Rose and Brad Hayes. There was an incident. Let's see if there's a great deal in it. So Brad Hayes coming off worst here in the new Project 45 livery. Yeah, a little bit of a tap there from Rosie, just on that back quarter, spins him around, and not much that I think Brad could have done there, but he'll get rolling again and back into it, I'm sure.
Yeah, he will push on, keep going, And so I'll have a look where he is on our list. I can't actually see him.
It's a fair way back now. Brad Hayes in 31st, Craig Rose in 32nd.
Craig in 32nd. There you go.
A long way down through the field, and not surprising considering how far back that will have set them.
Yes, I was wondering why I couldn't see them. There they are on our screen. That was why I couldn't see them, because they were off the screen at the time in 31st and 32nd. So disappointing for those two, but again, there's still a few laps to go in this race, and everyone resets and goes again for race number 2, and it's a much longer race. Looking further forward, this is Ricky Hyde, still trying to put some pressure on Trav Daly in front, who is putting a little bit. What's that? It doesn't look like Trav Daly. That actually looks like Dean Logsdale in front of.
That is Trav Daly, Dean Logsdale, all the way up in the new LMB Sim Racing livery.
There you go.
And Trav Daly in the newly recoloured M1 livery as well.
Oh yes, the silver
for
and
WKP
chrome,
Sim
yes.
Sports. So I'll have to check in with Trav actually and see if they've officially switched him over to M1 Racing, because it certainly looks like it based on the livery.
That's why I was a little bit confused. I was looking for WKP Sim Sports. keep me guessing, you know. I was looking for the WKP livery. I was like, I don't recognise that one, but there you go. So that is Trav Daly in front, and he's chasing after him. This is Brad Horsell in 15th place. And he's doing a good job right now. Brad Horsell at 5 spots so far, being hunted down slowly but surely by Jason Betts, who's keen to get inside this top 15 before the race is over. But Brad Horsell doing some work of his own, catching up to Luke Powell and Jamie McKnight, who are battling in front. So there's a nice few little battle packs forming out here at the moment. This one down in the back end of the 20th positions. So 21st through to about 24th. This is Rick Vigar. I don't know, is it his brother, Shad, that's also racing in here tonight, or are they cousins?
His son.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Father and son. So son is currently right up the order in 6th place, and father down the back running along as well in 22nd place. So father-son duo for Angry Birds Racing.
Jason Bent's up 16 spots since starting at the back of the grid. So halfway there, halfway to go. Going to have to get a little bit of a move on. Lap 7 just about done. So there's only a few laps left here. Thankfully a bit of time, and he's got a few spots just lurking ahead of him that he might have a crack at before this race is out. Brian Borg still leading the way. The eagle-eyed amongst you might notice that the opening intro for ASR does feature a nice little burnout from Brian Borg from his win here in Season 7 as well. G'day Jeremy, this is iRacing, mate, and one of the, if not the premier sim racing program that you'll find anywhere. You know, it's there's always the argument over whether it's a simulation or a game, and I say it can be both. I certainly have a lot of fun with it. These guys, though, take it pretty seriously. So it's it's a whole different thing when you get to the level of performance that you see in these leagues. Will Buchanan just starting to drop away, or rather to drop Troy Stone Street now, who's just starting to fall off the back of this front group. Phil Manuel, Mark Point, and Will Buchanan all still fighting it out for the last of the podium spots. And I think, Jeremy, sorry if you're asking about Abel Verban from Sim Racer HQ. Yeah, back in 28th. If you did miss it earlier, had a pretty unfortunate little coming together on the main straight with Stephen Varga, and did some pretty serious damage to the car. So I can't see him featuring much higher in the standings than that here for race 1, but race 2 will be a whole other opportunity for him to get back into it. Jamie McKnight and Luke Powell now battling it out for 13th in the M1 Racing entry, all over the back of the very, very well-known Fishy Motorsports livery there. Out in front, Brian Borg continues to extend that lead, 2.5 seconds now. Tell you what, he just loves the bend, doesn't he?
He does. He's really enjoying it here, having quite a fun time. I will say, now that they've cleared, as we see Josh Harris off the road, losing a couple of positions here, running wide. But now that they've cleared Troy Stone Street, Mark Point and Will Buchanan are right in behind Phil Manuel, so they are putting pressure on for second spot. Troy Stone Street will inherit, obviously, the pole position for race number 2 if things stay as they are. But for our poor friend Phil Manuel. He is not in a fun position right now. I would not want to be where he is, looking behind me and seeing two very angry supercars, one Chevy Camaro, one Ford Mustang, both driven by incredibly fast drivers.
Thankfully, though, they've got their own little battle going on here, and Point will be doing just as much work to hold Buchanan behind as possible. That's the thing about the Bend, and I remember having this conversation last time we were here, I'm sure. But despite how wide the track is, there's not really actually a huge amount of opportunity to overtake around this circuit. You really, especially as you start to get a little bit of heat and wear into the tyres, it really is a struggle to even think about making a pass around the outside. You just have to time it on those few corners that allow you to really dive in under brakes. It's the only way to get around here and get any passing done in a supercar. Despite how wide the circuit is, it does mean that Poynton's got probably the easier job here to just hold Buchanan at bay. Buchanan really wanted to get through and try and attack Phil Manuel, but all they're doing at the moment is allowing a little bit more space, as we see Chad Vigar and Dean Logsdale not too much further down behind, going side to side. Logsdale's managed to sneak through at a really unlikely section of track, and he gets his nose in front up into 6th place. Can Vigar respond?
He's thinking about it. He's going to have a look here, show the nose. Oh, this is a nice piece of racing between these two. Room left. So he was left room at the apex by Logsdale to be alongside, but the better exit on the wider line for Logsdale there has actually meant that he got the better drive off the corner. As a result, was ahead into the final turn. Holds the position running down the contact there. Cars. Oh, that looks like oh, he spun around in the pit entry. I don't know if that was a purposeful pit entry. He's going to drive into the pits and then leave.
Surely. No,
has to be contact.
There's contact with Benz there. We might have just caught it off the back. We'll see if we can get a view of it at all, but I don't think there was anything intentional about that.
Not at all.
Pit entry. Let's go back and take a quick look as we get around in this final lap. Just watch for any contact, or he's just overcook it on the exit as he gets the power down. It looks like Benz has tried to pull up and not give him a tap. I think there might have been a little bit of contact, but Luke Powell was already well on his way around by that stage. So if anything, it's only helping him to its natural conclusion a little bit faster, I think. We'll leave that one very much for the stewards to have a look at, though, and decide if there's anything in it. Brian Borg set to take a very, very easy win here. The second place sewn up as well by Phil Manuel, who, look, I've got to agree with Luke Ormond in the chat. I'd be very happy to be where Phil is, even with those guys behind you. The battle going on there means that Phil stays in second, and at this stage looks set to see that right through to the end. Brian Borg well out in front, no threat there. The battle here between Point and Buchanan actually bringing Troy Stone Street back into it. I don't think it'll be enough with just a couple of corners to go, but he will sense an opportunity to have a go at it if this does come to blows as they get around that final turn. Brian Borg about to come down and across the start-finish line. Here they come out of the final turn. Brian Borg will take the win here in race number 1. Phil Manuel retains second. Point in third, Buchanan in fourth, Troy Stone Street not too far behind at all in 5th place. And here come the rest of the group on their way through. A little bit of a late update there with a penalty for Brad Hayes for contact with Scott Perrins a little earlier in this race. But you can see them all just streaming home now, and not a huge gap. Jace Douglas is going to finish just behind Rick Vigar in 22nd, so still ends up a few spots. Abel Verban has managed to limp it home. Look at the damage on the front end of that car. He's going to just barely get home in 27th. Darryl Callahan threatening to overtake at the late stages there, but doesn't look like it will happen at the moment. Craig Rose and Luke Powell both having pretty rough nights. Luke Powell, look at the damage he's carrying. He's obviously made contact again somewhere. And in fact, as he limps
that's from
home,
the inside of the pit wall. That's from the tyre barrier at the pit wall.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's from right back there at the barrier, and you can see the amount of damage that he was carrying there. So not the way he will have wanted to finish that one. But for Brian Borg, he's just going to drift it home and enjoy the win in race number 1. And look, starting from 5th place, he finds himself in a pretty good spot to have a crack at race 2. That pit entry, though, we saw all sorts of issues with that last time as well. It's a really tough one to get across into and to get off the racing line, but then to also get down to, if memory serves, it's a 40k an hour pit limit. Oh, Borg just sending it into the final corners. Gotta love it.
Yeah, putting on a show, bit of drift work there. For Brian Borg, he looks pretty comfortable out there going sideways, and that's dangerous because it means that he will be fast in race number 2, and looking forward to seeing what he can do from 5th place. And look, Luke Allen, absolutely right. As those two, Poynton and Buchanan, continue to battle, his position became more and more one of security because he wasn't really caught up with those two. They were too busy trying to fight each other. But Brian Borg, as you said, takes the victory, almost 3 seconds back to Phil Manuel in position number 2. Mark Poynton also gets himself onto the podium, fends off a fast Will Buchanan in his ARTX Revolution E-Racing Mustang. Troy Stonestreet finishes in 5th place. We'll start from pole for race number 2 coming up. Dean Logsdale got Chav Vigar late in that one to finish back up in 6th place, so only lost 2 spots in the race in the end. And Chad, a very good result in 7th. Trav Daly, the leader of the Trophy Cup class, in 8th place, and I have lost the results on my screen. There we go. They've come back. Now Ricky Hyde in 9th, and Nick Geary, the second in class, but finishes inside the top 10 as well. A great result for him. James Hardy just outside in 11th place. And Tony Chapman as well in 12th. Jamie McKnight. Jason Bentz inside the top 15, so up 18 places in the end. That would be for him. What a way to move forward, and looking forward to seeing if he can continue to do that in race number 2. We know he loves these Australian circuits and has always been quick. We saw that at the back end of season 8 and time again across the history of ASR with Jason Bentz. Brett Horsell in 15th. Stephen Varga just missed out on a top 15 finish. Josh Harris into the top 20. Joel Esteval, Paul Burns and Andrew Hoffman rounding out that top 20. A lot of close times here this evening as well. Not a lot of separation between the drivers in terms of the gaps at the end there. Could that be a sign for what we see in race 2 as well? Rick Vigard, Jason Douglas just outside the top 20. Alistair Bales, Tommy DeWitt, Troy Sipple inside the top 25. He finishes in 25th position. Ash Hall, 26th. Abel Verban with a lot of damage on the front of that car just holds on over Darryl Callahan in 28th. Then it's Scotty Perrins, Brad Hayes, Craig Rose and Luke Powell rounding out the field. And unfortunately, Kyle Cunningham did not make the start of that race, so was not classified in the end. We might see him for race 2, otherwise hopefully we'll see him back next week. But he did appear in the session at some point, so hopefully that means we're going to see him very soon.
Something to watch for race number 2, which lies just a couple of minutes away for us here, folks. A couple of drivers there, Abel Verban and Luke Powell, who will be starting right down the back of the circuit, or back of the grid rather, with those late incidents, and Verban struggling to recover from the mid-race incident. That's gonna be a bit of work for them to navigate their way through a pretty Cup Trophy heavy lower end of the grid for race number 2. So expect to see them get caught up or try and push through pretty early. Jason Bentz continues to try and make the move from the mid-pack. Tell you what, if he could just put in some qualifying times, he'd find it a lot easier to collect points, wouldn't he?
If only we could all do that, Jared Cole, honestly. I think we'd all find it a lot easier to collect points if we could all put in qualifying times. But no, I think he knows what he has to do. He's certainly got the pace in that car, and with 3 times the race distance and less than 50% of the positions to make up to get to the front of the field, I think he's in a pretty commanding position to, I think, feature on the podium at the end of this one.
Now this is what we've got to look forward to, the strategy call here. 30 laps, 2 compulsory pit stops, a 70% fuel limit should be a pretty reasonable amount. We saw a couple of very different strategies play out last week in Mexico. Some of the top drivers, in fact 2 if memory serves, I think, who was amongst it? I want to say Phil Manuel was up there for a long time, coming in very, very early. I think he made his second stop only about 6 laps in to the feature race last week. And that was, well, geez, it was a long, long way from home, wasn't it? By the time they kind of started to get around to there, that was 6 laps into a 36-lap race. So I'm kind of wondering if we see another attempt at that here tonight. It's a pretty similar circuit in terms of the actual fuel drain and what you might be able to achieve here with a bit of fuel saving. But I don't know if we'll see them come in quite that early. I am anticipating, though, that we'll see a couple of drivers make their first stop within probably the first 5 or 10 laps and look to make a second not long after that. The contrast, of course, will be, as we saw last week, a mid-race stop or, early quarter or third of the way in from some of the faster guys, and then perhaps a very, very late splash and dash The challenge, of course, here with the Bend is the pit lane speed limit is very, very low, and it's that way with most of the Australian tracks. 40k an hour is absolutely crawling, and it makes this pit lane about 5 times longer than it probably should feel. And the end result is that you don't end up saving quite as much time as you'd think by making it a quick in and out stop. So that's to be considered for the drivers tonight as we start to look towards race number 2. We're just about to get gridded up, and we'll see what lies in store in terms of the pit strategies here this evening.
Yeah, well, the grid has been set, and as we said, Troy Stonestreet will line up on pole for this one. Will Buchanan shares the front row alongside him. Mark Poynton and Phil Manuel on row number 2, then Brian Borg in 5th place, and then the rest are as they finished in race number 1. So Dean Logsdale sharing that 3rd row of the grid. Chad Viger and Travis Daly on row number 4, then Ricky Hyde and Nick Geary inside the top 10 as well for the start of this one. In 11th place, 12th place, it is James Hardy, Tony Chapman on row number 6, Jamie McKnight, Jason Bench share row number 7, Brett Horsell, Stephen Varga on row number 8, Josh Harris, Joel Osterval, row 9, and rounding out the top 20 for this one is Paul Burns and Andrew Hoffman. And then we've got Rick Viger, Jace Douglas, Alistair Bales, Tommy DeWitt, Troy Sipple, Ash Hall, Abel Verban at the back of the field in 27th, Darryl Callahan, Scott Parents, Brad Hayes. And now we are getting ready to go pretty quickly. We've got given the green flag straight away.
Yeah, straight into it, and away we go here for race number 2, not number 3, folks. And we will get on our way back down towards turn 1. And geez, what a start from the field. And you can see already a lot of movement in the background, side to side, as Luke Powell tries to pick his way through. Into turn 1 we go. And already a bit of movement as Manuel drops back a few positions. Buchanan and Stonestreet side by side, and already you can see the battling starting. It's in the background, a few cars coming to grief. That's Jace Douglas, and would you believe it, Abel Verban caught up in it again as he runs wide. Paul Burns also getting caught in amongst them. Look at the front 3, Buchanan, Stonestreet and Poynton off to a very, very early. Brian Borg really struggling with the traffic, is starting to drop down. He's in 7th, possibly 8th place, depending on who's got their nose slightly in front at any given moment, but he's found himself just dropping back a couple of positions, and that's going to be really tough. And a big nudge there for Nick Geary as he goes off to the side of the circuit. So hopefully he can get back on and not lose too many places, but that's going to drop him all the way back into the mid or even high 20s. So these early collisions really taking their toll. Out in front though, Buchanan, Stonestreet and Poynton really starting to set the pace and pull away from Logsdale and the lineup that is forming up behind him.
Yeah, this has really changed the feel of this, and Brian Borg has a bit of work to do. He's gone backwards at the start of this. Ricky Hyde, he's in a great position inside the top 5. He has had a brilliant start to this, as well as Logsdale, who's also jumped up into 4th. Will Buchanan will be hoping to capitalise. He knows Brian Borg has so much pace in this circuit. If he can pull away from Stonestreet and Poynton in the early stages, it could create a bit of a buffer, make it harder for Borg to catch him as this race goes on. Obviously, that will be undone if we do get a safety car at some point in this motor race, but that remains to be seen with 30 laps to go exactly what happens. Lap 1 is complete, and they still have 29 more tours of this circuit to go before we are finished for the evening. Will Buchanan, a great start for him, side by side with Troy Stonestreet into turn 1 and 2, but made it work, and a couple of cars already deciding it is time to come in the lane. One of those, Nick Geary, who lost a large number of places off the start, and as a result, I think he's just looking for some fresh air.
Yeah, look, I think if you get pushed that far down through the order that early on, why wouldn't you just take the opportunity to come in and make an early stop and try and get a little bit back with the undercut, as we see the two teammates go side by side. That's Troy Sipple and Ash Hall just battling it out here for 20th place. Behind them, Bales, Burns and Hayes. We're just watching on with interest to see if the two Colin boys do manage to hold together. Out in front, Buchanan under a fair bit of pressure at the moment from Troy Stonestreet, who's found a little bit of extra pace off that start. Mark Poynton, though, not too far off the back either, and the three of them really pushing on. Some pretty quick lap times out of the gate there, and that will no doubt start to fall as we get up and running here. I mean, sub 2 minutes from a standing start is blindingly fast, and that's something you can only really do with a bit of clean air. Brian Borg finds himself still stuck in 7th, and he's just going to have to settle in there for a little while, I think.
Yeah, and he just has to get himself into a rhythm. He knows this is a long race. He's very cool-headed. He's not going to psych himself out in the early stages of this race trying to go for a move that certainly isn't there. He knows there is a long way to go. He knows he has the pace, much like Jason Bentz, who's already up into this top 10. He is not far off the back of this group either. He is pushing along. Tony Chapman in 15th place with Josh Harris as well. So there's a few names pushing on. This is sizing up for a move in the background. That was Joel Osterwald trying to find a way past Tony Chapman, and Josh Harris again just being caught out by this penultimate corner a couple of times. We saw him off the road earlier on in race 1. That cost him a position or two, and now it's almost going to cost him a position here to Tony Chapman, who's trying to fancy himself a look, gets to the inside, goes to the outside now. A couple of cars driving into the lane in the background as well. That's Osterwald and Powell, but we are side by side on the run towards turn 1. Under brakes, who's going to have the measure of the corner? Trying to hang around the outside, which becomes the inside for 2. There's a bit of a tap, and around goes Josh Harris. So a bit of a tap. Through it goes. That looks like Vigar, who into the back of him as well as Tony Chapman. So he's getting the elbows out, trying to defend the position, but there was a bit of overlap between Chapman and Harris, which caused contact. Harris got it straightened up fairly quickly, but did lose 2 positions as a result. Rick Vigar has capitalised. Chapman redresses that, so that is a clear redress from Chapman to give that position back, but as a result, Josh Harris has gone very wide and lost the position once again. And off the road, all on his own, there goes Rick Vigar. Massive hit into the wall.
Disconnect. That's a wheel disconnect, absolutely.
Absolutely a wheel disconnect any day of the week. That is a hardware failure if I have ever seen one. That is heartbreaking stuff. He just gained 2 positions. Felt like it was Christmas for Rick Vigar, and all of a sudden a hardware failure straight into the wall. That is disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely is, and not at all what you want to see. I have to jump on board and just confirm that, but there's no way he speared off the track through anything else other than hardware failure. Phil Manuel getting a little bit of a nudge along from Chad Vigar as well as they try and stick with Brian Brook. But geez, what a quick little sequence of events that was, and we'll have to have a look and see if we can pick up just what happened. I think Josh Harris just maybe getting a little bit excited about wanting to take that position back and not realising perhaps that Chapman was in the middle of redressing, and so set himself a little bit too deep into that corner and really wasted the redress. So he'll be having to fight his way back through. Ash Hall now still battling it out with Troy Sipple. They're a couple of positions further up thanks to a few of the pit stops going on. And yeah, look, a bit of an interesting move there.
Tommy
I'm not
DeWitt?
quite sure what DeWitt was doing with that one.
Was it DeWitt? Or was it DeWitt or was it Parents?
It was Tommy DeWitt. Yeah, it was Tommy DeWitt going all the way to the inside of the track. Whether he's just trying to avoid Phil Manuel on the pit entry or something like that, I'm not entirely sure. But a real ask of the tyres, and not something you want to do without good reason.
He's done well to catch that, I'll be honest, and keep putting in a straight line, because that was a very big moment. And it has cost him a number of positions with the compromise to the speed that he had. And we've seen that a couple of times now so far in this race. A few unforced errors from drivers, a couple of hardware failures that have led to heartbreak. And as this race goes on, the fatigue will start to creep in even more, and those mistakes will become more prevalent, especially at a circuit like the Bend. You're so busy. This is on board with Rick Vigar. This will tell us the story of exactly what's happened. He is turned down, goes to turn back across, and yeah, the wheel just turns.
Well, that's not
all the way down.
That's not a disconnect though. That's
really
interesting. Because yeah, if you get a hardware disconnect, it snaps all the way over instantly. That looks like, dare I say it, Vigar just tapping out for the night. I don't know if something's happened that he needed to very quickly exit the rig or something. There was no contact that we could see. Very, very interesting
that,
one.
Or there is the potential that it could be a misinput or a ghost input coming in from somewhere, from either a keyboard or something, or another controller that has registered as turning down but hasn't happened. It does happen. It's very rare. I'm not exactly sure what's happened for poor Rick Vigar, but yeah, something has indeed happened, and that is devastating stuff. He is sitting in the pit lane, so it'll be interesting to see once that damage is repaired, that meatball flag disappears. Does he come back out on circuit, or does he elect to just stay in the pits for the remainder of the race? We shall wait and see, but either way, into the back. Alistair Bales into the back of Ash Hall, into the braking zone at 1, and that's the other thing you have to be careful of. Jared Cole, cars arriving at turn one will be doing different speeds, and if you are so close to the back of another car, especially with the car in front like Alistair Bales was, you need to be very, very careful not to outbrake them unless you can get up the inside, because otherwise you'll have moments like that where you just hit the back of them, and now it's cost him some positions.
When he goes really, really deep, big lockup as he tries desperately to get the car pulled up, maintains the position though and stays ahead of Ash Hall just barely. And I think probably through more a bit of self-preservation from Ash Hall than anything else. I'm just going back to try and see if we can get a bit of a look at the contact between Chapman and Harris coming into turn one. We'll see what we can find here. Just keep your eye on this as Chapman comes in. Harris starts to move across. There's a little bit of a loose rear end there, so Chapman just getting it a little loose under acceleration. That's what's put him into the back quarter. Josh Harris, not a lot in it in the end. Probably just as much luck as skill really involved there. Harris did a great job to save it, and Chapman, for his part, kept it from being too heavy of a hit. He could have quite easily overstepped that with trying to get the accelerator down as early as he could. But all in all, it's actually ended up being really a fairly minor moment. I doubt that Harris has probably even called that one in. Could be wrong though. We'll find out soon enough if it does come up from the stewards.
Yeah, look, we'll find out if the stewards do call something or not, but either way, whether Josh Harris has decided to remains to be seen. I'm sure even if we don't hear anything from the stewards, we'll find out from him post-race, no doubt. He's pretty active, pretty vocal about what he thinks and how he feels, and that's the only way to be sometimes, is to be out there with your opinions. No point hiding it, that's for sure. A number of other cars in the pit lane as well. So James Hardy, Alistair Bales, Tommy DeWitt, Ash Hall, Scotty Perrins all into the lane for their stops as well. So some stops happening fairly early on in this race, Jared Cole. A lot of people deciding that they're just going to get it out of the way this first stop. Really don't need to worry about fuel management with two stops here, especially if you are going to split the race into even parts. I don't see anybody putting exorbitant amounts of fuel in or needing to run the tank dry at any point throughout this race. So stopping early, getting yourself a bit of clean track position may not be the worst way to go.
Yeah, look, I reckon it's a fair chance Brad Hayes had a bit of a what the moment there as everyone around him peeled off to come into the pits. But it's left him with a nice bit of clear track, and he finds himself up 14 positions at the moment, although a good number of drivers that have come in and made a very, very early first stop. Phil Manuel, the first in track position of those who have. He came in on lap 3 and now sitting in 18th position, not too far off the back of Craig Rose, but yeah, it certainly gives you a bit of an idea of just how much of a difference the pit lane speed makes in terms of overall positioning. The drivers taking those pit stops will drop a long way back in terms of time against those who haven't yet, but it will sort itself out quickly enough. Chase Douglas gets the move done on Troy Sickle and runs it all the way out to the red and white curving, as you do on that exit. And that's what makes this pit entry so dangerous, is that there's really only a split second to decide if the driver in front is actually headed for the pits or if they're just taking the normal racing line. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen an accident there, and I reckon there's a fair chance of it tonight as well.
Yeah, especially with all this close racing, it is very, very likely to happen. And I think Brad Hayes was hoping, and that's why we saw Tommy DeWitt take evasive action as well earlier, but Brad Hayes got away with it. Very, very lucky. For those keeping a keen eye on the totem towards the top of the field, Ryan Borg has found his way up into 5th place. So he has jumped ahead of Ricky Hyde, and Chad Varga, Jason Bence is up to 8th, leading this little group you can see on screen right now with Trav Daly and Stephen Varga. So Vargas wants to try and follow his teammate through, keep up with him, and Trav Daly will be desperate to defend that spot. Look, they're not in-class combatants. He is 9th overall, but there is a few gaps or a few places between himself and Jace Douglas. The question will be, where does someone like Paul Burns or Scotty Perrins drop out once Trav Daly has pitted? Because keep in mind, those guys have all pitted. 5-second penalty for car contact with 58 with contact with car 33 on lap 5. So that is
Bales into Ash Hall.
Bales into Ash Hall, which is understandable. So the stewards have handed out a penalty for that, which I believe that happened after the Josh Harris contact, which makes me think that there may not be any contacts for any penalty as a result of that contact, or it will happen post-race. I just noticed Dean Logsdale's diving into the pit lane as well, so the first of the leaders to dive in to the lane for their stops, which is actually very interesting. Chad Vigard, Bentz and Horsell have all followed in as well. So the front three pushing on. Brian Borg some 4 seconds behind them, but Will Buchanan is taking the opportunity while he has it to pull away from this group, almost 3 seconds out in the lead of this race, and just Stone Street and Poynton battling for second on the road.
Yeah, and it will start to just space out a little bit here and amongst these pit stops. It's a really, really long track comparatively to a lot of the others that we'll be seeing this season, and so you will get quite a bit of clear air opening up between cars as the pit stops start to fall into place. The interesting one here, Phil Manuel coming down the main straight. There's Jason Bentz just coming out of the pits now, so Manuel's got a really, really good run on him and will maintain that lead position of those who have pitted. The question is for how long, and you can see Jason Bentz very quickly getting up to speed. He'll get a little bit of temp in those tyres and be chasing down Manuel in no time at all, I'm sure. The one to watch now, of course, will be Buchanan, Stone Street or Poynton when they come in, just where they fall on track compared to Manuel and Bentz.
Yeah, that will be the game that we have to play now, the guessing game of where everybody's going to pop out. And look, the other thing will be everyone's going to probably take different fuel loads at these stops. No two people will be the same in terms of the fuel that they take. Having a quick look at the fuel times while this battle goes on, it was 15 seconds of fuel for Phil Manuel and only 11 seconds of fuel for Jason Bentz. That's still a 4-second difference. Dean Logsdale took 16 seconds of fuel, which put him behind Bentz. So that is interesting to note, and that's something we're keeping up with. This is on board with Mark Poynton. He's got to run in the slipstream side by side down the front straight towards turn one. Under brakes, can he get it done? Trying to hang around the outside is Troy Stone Street. He's going to have to fall in behind though as they move through one into two. And that is, he's worked very hard at that, Mark Poynton, to get that move done. Troy Stone Street making the 801 Sim Racing Chevy Camaro as wide as possible. Poynton has found his way past into a bit of clean air at the expense of a gap to Will Buchanan. That gap has almost doubled now to Will Buchanan, who's almost 4 seconds. It's almost 3 seconds. Well, I say almost doubled. He's added about a second. It was almost 3 seconds about a lap ago. Now it's over 4.
Yeah, and look, you can really see that the bend really amplifies how important that final exit can be on any track, really. But any main straight that you get with these V8 supercars, you lose just a little bit of pace at the start of a long straight, and it's amplified massively by the time you get down to the next braking zone. And demonstrated it beautifully there by Mark Poynton. Had a better run out of the final turn and just absolutely nailed it all the way down. It was only a few k/h difference by the time they got to the braking zone, but over the run of a straight like that, geez, it makes a huge difference. And now Stone Street's struggling to keep up. Poynton gets his nose clean and all of a sudden starts to pull away. Craig Rose just getting out of the way as Jason Bentz and Phil Manuel come absolutely rocketing through in 9th and 10th. And look at the gap now. Jason Bentz closing right up behind Manuel.
I think Rose has an issue. He's losing a lot of time to the cars behind. So getting out of the way, but travelling at a relatively slow pace, and the gap that he's pulling, or is being pulled away from, is not too indicative of a car that is full speed up the inside, tries to show the nose. That was very aggressive and an unconventional spot for Benz to go for the move. Now Mark Poynton has dived in. This is going to be crucial because this will tell us, Jared Cole, where exactly Poynton will pop out in relation to these two who, while they are battling, are on fresher tyres, probably doing similar lap times, if not slightly better than what those guys are doing in front. And now Manuel lets Bentz go. He goes very wide on the grass. He's got too much speed through the corner, as you said, Jared. Carried a little bit too much speed into the braking zone, and as a result found himself doing a bit of rallycross on the grass.
Yeah, I think Phil Manuel saw that coming, got over a little bit just to open the door and allow Bentz to have a crack at it. And to his credit, Bentz would have held that pretty comfortably had he managed to just get off the brakes a little compared to where he ended up. But a nice little full slide into the grass. Hasn't hurt him too much. Dean Logsdale now within range. But here's the interesting one. There is Mark Poynton, and here comes Phil Manuel. Manuel's going to take it in the braking zone, but Poynton is up to pace and immediately onto his tail.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Here we go. Come back at him. In through 2. They're side by side. A little bit of room left between the two of them. Into 3. And Poynton, he's got to get those tyres up to temperature quick. Phil Manuel is trying to capitalise. Well, he does have rears with temperature, but Mark Poynton is in front, and as a result, I think as soon as his tyres warm up, he will just start to pull away from these guys. And Manuel, we saw the moment he tried to capitalise, but wide there for Mark Poynton. That'll be the cold tyres talking, but I think Manuel is resigned to the fact that he will be behind Mark Poynton, looking at his rear wing. The goal for Manuel, I believe, will be not to drop off the back of this car. He just wants to try and stay with him, because Manuel now is going for an undercut going to protect his position on Stone Street, who dives into the lane, but potentially, depending on how long Will Buchanan decides to stay out, get himself closer to the lead of this race. So Will Buchanan currently doing, have a quick look at my lap times, currently doing 53s. These guys are doing 55s, 53 on the last lap for Dean Logsdale, so he's actually still matching these guys at the front of the field. So that shows what clean air can do.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the battle here at the Bend, and there's not a lot to be gained from it through a whole lot of this track, but it doesn't stop you from feeling the pressure to maintain your position, to really fight, to hold your position, or indeed to attack and try and pick one up, as well as you see both Manuel and Benz just getting it a little bit loosey-goosey on the exit of the turn as they try and get the power down and stay on the tail of Mark Poynton, who, to his credit, looking very, very smooth and just starting to pull away further and further. Troy Stone Street is already back out on track. You can see Brian Borg just coming out now, but Troy Stone Street on his way through 1 onto 2. Mark Poynton's got some work to do to try and reel him in here. There's Poynton now. It's not a huge gap, but it is certainly significant enough that Poynton he's got to do a lot of work here. I'm not quite sure how he's lost so much to Stone Street, although the giveaway might be the time spent in pits. Stone Street at 14.88 in the bay, Poynton 18.2, so Poynton probably carrying a bit more fuel right now. That will probably reverse come pit stop number 2, and we'll probably see Poynton out a little bit quicker than Stone Street. So hard to predict at this stage, but I would expect that those two will end up battling neck and neck come pit stop number 2.
Yeah, I certainly believe so. That's 3.5 seconds as Will Buchanan, our race leaders, into the lane as well. So then that 3.5 seconds would have put Poynton about a second clear of Troy Stone Street. So that's where the difference has come into it. Poynton has the pace in that car. We saw that throughout the first stint, and he's putting it to good use now, getting that gap within 2 seconds now. So he is trying to gain as fast as he can. Trav Daly with the black flag, so that'll be for speeding on entry into the lane. That will mean that he has a stop and hold as part of his pit stop. So that is devastating for Trav Daly. He was in a good position, looking strong, and unfortunately that speeding on entry, the overspeed on entry, will cost him what will feel like, I'm sure, an eternity sitting in that pit box.
It's so easy to do. We said this before, that pit entry, it's so hard to get across and get down to 40k an hour off a very, very fast final turn. I'm actually surprised that Trav Daly's the first one we've seen get pinged for that. But, you know, it's going to happen. Will Buchanan's back out, and have a look in the background. Here comes Stone Street. So again, Buchanan taking 19 seconds in the bay. So Stone Street really relying on that shorter pit stop to be in amongst it at the moment. But it may not turn out so well for him if he has to spend a bit longer in there on that second stop. We'll watch this one carefully. Stone Street well positioned for the moment, but definitely running lighter on fuel than Buchanan ahead or Poynton behind, after those two both made significantly longer stops than most of the field, honestly. Jason Bentz, for his credit, he's up in 6th at the moment. You can see he's not far off the back here. Only spent just a hair over 11 seconds in the pit bay, so he's running very, very light. He wants all the pace he can extract from that car right now.
He certainly does. He is pushing on, and he has a lot of pace in that car. We've seen that time and time again today. He will be starting to size up where he can get past Phil Manuel, looking for a place where he can just try and get him under brakes. Hopefully not carry too much speed into the corner like he did last time he went for that move. Tommy DeWitt, we are watching here. He's in a little bit of a battle with Brett Horsell and Luke Powell just in front of him as well. These guys inside the top 20, the back end of the top 20 actually. Callahan and Verban also not too far off these guys, battling for 21st position. Josh Harris now from the lead of the race into the lane, so serving his first stop. 12 laps into this race. We're almost at the halfway mark, would you believe? Time absolutely flying when we're having fun here at ASR. No, never a day where we are not having fun, I think, in the commentary booth here for ASR. Luke Powell being, well, he is sizing up Scotty Perrins at the moment for 17th place. He thinks about a move, and Perrins is wide. Perrins has left him room, I believe, on the exit, and that opened the door for Powell, but he just couldn't get the overlap that he wanted. As a result, has to sit in behind once again. Will he go for it in the penultimate corner? He certainly is showing the nose. He has the intent to go for the move up the inside under brakes, but not deep enough. There's a little bit of contact by the looks of it, and it's going to invite Brett Horsell and maybe Tommy DeWitt into the party as well. So Horsell all of a sudden rubbing his hands together at the thought he could get 2 for the price of 1 here if he's careful. Tommy DeWitt could get all of them if it goes the way it's going, and look out for Callahan and Abel Verban in the background, because they're also going to be a part of this very, very soon. And that's how quickly up the inside now for Luke Powell. That is deep under brakes. He carries the speed. Oh, there's Brett Horsell as well. Shows the nose. A little bit too much speed carry. That invites DeWitt on through. And DeWitt now has a bit of a size up on Perrins, but that was big commitment under brakes for Luke Powell, but he got it done.
Powell's been really chasing those positions since starting, as you might recall, folks, from well down in the field after that, what was it, second to last lap, where he did have that unfortunate little slide and spin into the pit lane entry. Cost him a lot of time, a lot of track position, but he's trying his best to make that up here tonight. And look, doing a pretty solid job so far. He's made his way from 32nd up into 16th. Still a bit of work yet to do, and plenty of pressure around him as these battles continue. Powell will be trying to pull away now from Scott Perrins and leave this group behind. Darryl Callahan just having a look to see if he can find a way past Brett Horsell. Not seeing it at the moment. Abel Verban also looking. Powell has gone off the inside of the track. Just a bit of a moment under brakes there, perhaps. Not quite sure what's happened, but
contact with Verban on the way through.
What is going on?
So that was some contact between himself and Verban on the way through. So that also then continued to upset this car for Luke Powell. Almost found himself skirting off in the grasping of the wall, but he's pulled it up. This car does not look happy right now. There are some very overheated tyres on that car, and it is not turning the way he would want it to. This is Jason Bentz at the front of the field. He's got himself within about 3/10 of Phil Manuel, then Dean Logsdale and Brian Borg also a part of this group. So he wants to try and get past Phil Manuel, run away from the two that are behind him, because they have a lot of pace here as well, as does he. For Buchanan, Stone Street and Poynton, this is gold, because they are trying to build gaps. They are getting away from these guys, and Phil Manuel desperate to hold on to this 4th place, doing a fantastic job, I might add. He is driving brilliantly right now, and he drove brilliantly in race 1 as well. And just they cannot find a way past him. He doesn't quite have the same pace, which there's nothing wrong with that. He might be conserving tyres, might be looking after his car a little bit. He just doesn't have quite the same pace to keep with the front guys, but he has just enough pace that he can keep these guys behind, keep them at bay, and they just cannot get past him.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to argue with the pace of Buchanan, Stone Street and Poynton out in front here tonight. Nick Geary, another one who finds himself in a bit of no man's land. It looked as though he had a moment there, and I think that's what's put him all on his own. We'll have to go back and have another look. Here's Tommy DeWitt still in this group with Perrins and Horsell. A little bit of a gap opening up to Callahan and Verban behind, but the bulk of the battling right here on track around this 20th position, and then the group we were looking at just a moment ago, Phil Manuel, Jason Bentz, Dean Logsdale, Brian Borg. The other one is Phil Manuel goes wide on the exit and sends himself all the way to the back of the group. Jason Bentz gets the clean air he was hoping for. Dean Logsdale and Brian Borg go through. Big slide from Bentz as he gets the power down onto the straight. Phil Manuel will have some work to do to catch this group again now.
Yeah, he will have some work to get back to where he was, and these guys, he was making it very hard for them, but he's really just opened the door there for all three of them to go on through. This is Luke Powell. This is what happened to onto the grass, so he's already struggling with a bit of rotation here, and then more onto the grass. Big inside cut there, and lost all of his position. So it looks like the car was not turning in the way you wanted it to, and then there's contact with Abel Verban. Whether we didn't realise that Verban was there or what happened, but not ideal at all for Luke Powell, and he has a lot of work to do. He's in the pit lane now, so getting a fresh set of tyres on that car with about half race distance to go, so still a long way to go in this race.
Yeah, there certainly is, and just as we cut away from that, Brian Borg getting the move done on Dean Logsdale as they came through the opening few corners. This is what it looked like. Got Chubby Buns replay catches again under the braking, into the braking zone of turn one, and you see this so often here. Borg just cuts across, gets on the brakes just a little bit later, a little bit lighter, and thank you very much. That'll be the spot. Gets the power down, cuts the over-under off for Logsdale, and picks himself up another position.
Yeah, smart driving from Borg, and now he's going to try and put the pressure on Brents. These guys will want to try and catch. They've got 3 seconds to make, three and a half seconds to make up to get the point. But I think they'll be more interested about who's going to be at the front of this pack rather than working together to catch up to the cars in front. So Borg won race one quite comfortably, knows he has the pace here. Jason Bentz, typically at the Australian circuits, is an absolute gun as well. But both of them will want to be the lead car, trying to close up and give themselves the best opportunity to win. Meanwhile, out in front, Will Buchanan continuing to pull away. 3.75 seconds is the gap between himself and Troy Stone Street, and almost the same back to Mark Poynton. So the front three fairly spread out. Here we go. This is Borg on Benz. Nice run off the final corner in the slipstream and under brakes. Borg just backs out of that. Sorry, Benz just backs out of that early. Does not put up a massive fight at all, and lets Borg go. He carries a lot of speed in the corner, almost too much speed. Runs off the road, and that's actually going to invite Benz back into it, maybe. Dean Logsdale was getting a bit excited there as well. Wanted to have a bit of a sniff up the inside, but I think that's all sorted out now. They are running in, well, now Borg in fourth, Benz in fifth, Logsdale sixth, and Phil Manuel in seventh place. And these three pretty much the closest little battle group on track at the moment, and Manuel has actually capitalised. We didn't know how he'd go catching back up to this group, but he's made it look fairly easy, and he's right on the back of Logsdale.
A lot of that probably to do with the battling going on between Borg, Bentz and Logsdale, all just swapping a few positions around there. A really interesting move from Bentz. He got on the brakes really, really early there, and I almost wonder if that was intentional to just throw Borg off a little bit, because that was well before the usual braking mark. I mean, maybe he's just trying to get the tyres down in temp a little bit, but a very, very strange early braking manoeuvre, and I can only think that it was just intended to throw Borg's rhythm off a little, and it almost looks like it succeeded, because otherwise Borg should have been well off into the distance here. Bentz is still right there with him. This is race 2 of 2 here tonight at the Bend. The Alliance Sim Racing Gard Supercar Championship continues. We're just past the halfway mark. 2 compulsory pit stops to be made here by the drivers tonight. You can see so far the list is very much single stops, with the exception of a couple down towards the back end of this field. And yeah, look, as we see, Jason Bentz comes in for his second. He wants to get out of that group and just allow himself a bit of clean air again. And look, I don't think it's the worst idea. Whether he's decided to do that just as a result of that, the tyres on that last lap or something, I don't know, maybe something to do with that early braking, but he's decided to come in and make his second stop now, get himself some clean air, and then carry on. The 2 LMV Sim Racing entries, Dean Logsdale and Phil Manuel, find themselves nose to tail here, and a bit of an opportunity perhaps for them to work together and try and reel in the hard charging Brian Borg, who continues to open up more and more space from the pair of them. And we're really in that weird midsection of any race here at the Bend, whereas these pit stops start to happen, you get some pretty big gaps opening up, and we'll really only see that all condense again once everyone does get into those second stops. I'm almost a little surprised that we haven't seen anyone go for a really big undercut here tonight. The second stops have all happened from about, well, let's say lap 14 onwards, I think is about the earliest I can see there. Luke Powell made his second on 14. Joel Lustaval in 24th, his second on 14. Jason Bentz, his second just then on 16. No second stops any earlier than that, and that's probably just down to making sure they get home on fuel. I know it was a pretty tight one at Mexico for a couple of drivers last week who coughed and spluttered their way across the line. So maybe no one willing to chance that here tonight.
And I think the safety cars, or lack thereof, has certainly played a contributing factor into that as well. With the early safety car in race 2 last week in Mexico, it left a lot of drivers with a decision to make, and a few of them did decide to take that second stop early on, get it out of the way, which as a result meant that they had to go for a long way in this race. Oh, very close between the two teammates into the pit lane. That was Logsdale and Manuel, nose to tail into the lane. And they've done well not to make contact there, if so a little bit of contact between the two of them. Varga also into the lane. Varga, Hyde pushing on. Borg also continuing to push on with the pace that he has in that car, trying to make up some time. I'm having a look at the lap times he is doing out there at the moment with clean air. He's just done a 53.9, which is about the same as Mark Poynton, a little bit faster than Troy Stonestreet, and about the same as Will Buchanan. So these front four just matching each other right now, and that's going to create a little bit of a stalemate. This is the replay of watch how close they get. Oh, they've done very well.
Beautifully synchronized. Nothing to it.
That is some fantastic pit and synchronized pit entry from the LMV Sim Racing teammates. And now Josh Harris, 15th place for Josh Harris or 16th place actually at the moment for Josh Harris in this one. Keep in mind, a couple of cars have stopped, but he is doing well regardless. It was a tough week for Josh Harris last week in Mexico. He had a bit of a PC disconnect, and it gave up about, probably on, I think it was lap 1 of the second race in Mexico. And he was a bit devastated, I think, a bit frustrated with that and how that turned out. Troy Sipple as well in third. It was sitting, I believe that's third. It looks like third in class, but we can't see the rest on our totem. If I have a look, he's actually 5th in class right now and sitting in 15th place, but still top 15 is a strong result so far this evening for Troy Sipple. We'll wait to see where it all plays out once pit stops have finished. But with about 11 laps to go in this one, when he crosses the line, he's looking in a pretty strong position.
Yeah, not a bad spot to be halfway up the field, and still hanging in there with, again, everyone ahead still to make their second stops as well. Ricky Hyde comes in from 5th place. The lead at the moment for those who have made stops, both of the LMV Sim Racing drivers, Dean Logsdale and Phil Manuel, in 18th and 19th. So they are at the head of the pack at the moment. Will Buchanan absolutely storming along out front, 4.5, approaching 5 seconds gap now to Troy Stonestreet, who himself has almost 4 seconds over Mark Poynton, who has almost 4 seconds over Brian Borg, and then at the moment 28 seconds back from Borg to Tony Chapman in 5th as the pit stops start to roll through. So the front four, it's a tough place to be, honestly, when you're racing that far ahead, and just a little bit of nudge along there from Harris.
That's contact.
That's definite contact.
That's definite contact.
It's a tough thing too, because the change in the pit limiter that has been made by iRacing coming into this current season, by all accounts, it does feel a bit different on entry, and it has led to a couple of drivers just adjusting the way that they do approach those pits to make sure they don't go over speed and cop that penalty. But we've got a few drivers who like to push the absolute limits all the way up to that pit entry cone. And Josh Harris maybe just misjudging a little bit the room that he actually had to play with there. Troy Stonestreet, we're watching right now, the 801 Sim Racing entry, sitting in second, trying to chase this man down. It is Will Buchanan, and just as we've looked away from that, Stonestreet just running a little bit wide on that final turn, and not quite the approach we would like. Mark Poynton's in from 3rd place, so he's going to try for the undercut here, and with 10 laps to go, that's probably not an awful bet to make. It's probably about the only option he's got here to try and reel in these front two.
Yeah, look, he has a bit of work to do if he does want to catch up to this front group. And here we go. This is Dean Logsdale going around the outside of Valls to Bales. And I thought he was going to go off the road there, but he's actually done well to keep that car on the circuit. So pushes on in 9th place. Jason Bentz is actually a fair way behind him. Having a look at these pit times, if you don't mind, get some numbers for you folks. Dean Logsdale, 16.6 second stop. Jason Bentz, 25 seconds in the lane. That is a long time to be sitting stationary, and I'd imagine that's maybe fuel. I don't know.
Yeah, well, remember Ben's had that 11-second stop.
11-second stop? Yeah.
So a really fast it's a very, very fast first stop, but he's paid for it in the second one. He's needed to take on quite a bit more fuel, and so that's going to send him back a little way, although here he is, still within the top 10, and it'll be interesting to see just what he can make of it. But the reality is, Mark Poynton's made his second stop. He's come out here in 5th place, so quite a way up, almost 2 seconds ahead still of Logsdale and Manuel, who made their stops a couple of laps earlier. And you've got to think that Poynton in some clean air is a real shot at closing the gap here to the likes of Buchanan, Stone Street and Borg. Whether it's going to be enough, probably not, I suspect, only because those front three have been so fast all night tonight. Tony Chapman finds himself kind of squished in the middle at the moment, and he'll find quite a fall through the ranks once he does come in for that second stop, but for the moment enjoying 4th place in the podium sim racing entry. Will Buchanan stays on track. Stone Street and Borg both into the bay, so Mark Poynton, you can see still a few turns to go before he gets back around. I don't think he's going to close and be on the tail of either Stone Street or Borg, but it's a very slow pit lane, and it's a big ask, but with both of them in the pit bay now, Tony Chapman comes in as well. I can't imagine Stone Street or Borg are going to be in there much longer than about 15 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that down the bottom of your screen. Stone Street still in the pit box. Still in the pit box as Poynton comes onto the home straight. Now Stone Street is out 20 seconds, so he's had to take a bit of a longer stop there. Poynton spent 18.2, so that earlier stop has really paid off for him. And there he goes, flies past Troy Stone Street at the pit exit and up into 2nd place. Probably not close enough to catch Buchanan, but certainly a lot closer than I probably anticipated it to be. Stone Street now in effective 2nd place of those who have made those stops. Brian Borg comes out behind Dean Logsdale. So Logsdale definitely making the most of that earlier stop, and Phil Manuel not too far off the back either. It's going to be an interesting final 9 or so laps home from here. Will Buchanan looking pretty unbeatable though, you'd have to say.
He does look in control. We don't want to jinx it just yet, but he still has to make his final stop. But he is looking in a strong position. Does he dive in this time around? He does. So we'll get the answer of just what's going to happen with these pit stops for Will Buchanan. He was some 4 and a bit seconds in front of Troy Stone Street before they came in. The last pit stop before Will Buchanan was 19 seconds. He was stopped for a fairly long time, so you'd imagine this will not be as long a stop. Jace Douglas looking up the inside of Brett Horsell. He's actually going to go to the outside now for the braking zone into here, and we'll go for the switchback, the over-under, but Brett Horsell positioned his car perfectly and will hold on because it becomes the inside once again. So Jace Douglas trying to do things the hard way, go the long way around the outside of Brett Horsell. Can he make it stick? He's certainly trying to, through the series of right-handers, to go the long way around, and he's absolutely done it. So Jace Douglas, that is some brilliant wheel work, an excellent overtake, the long way around the outside of Brett Horsell through those right-handers. Not a place I would pick to get that done.
Yeah, and it looked like Horsell, I think, maybe choosing a little bit of sanity and a little bit of self-preservation, just backing out of that one a little to allow Douglas to complete the move, because Jace Douglas clearly not going to back out of that one, despite it probably being in his best interest to not try and go around the outside. So now, question will be, has Horsell maybe saved his tyres a little bit and has an opportunity to come back at it? Douglas just too fast out of the corners at the moment, so he'll start to pull away. The battle behind them, Paul Burns, Abel Verban, Tommy DeWitt hovering around that 20th place mark. So this little trio just finding their way together into the closing stages of this race. Up front, Dean Logsdale starting to come under pressure from Brian Borg, who has a big look up the inside, very late under brakes. He's going to get it pulled up. Logsdale leaves him plenty of room. He's going to try and go over under, but Borg just too fast. Caught him by surprise there, I think, and dived very, very late into that turn. Brian Borg will continue on now into 4th place. Will Buchanan has come in and out of his pit stop. And look at this, still 10 seconds up from Mark Poynton. There is absolutely no contest right now.
No, there is no contest at all. He is off the road for Troy Sipple, and we get a slow down as a result. That was a 17-second pit stop for Will Buchanan, so still a fairly lengthy time in the box, but Again, he has just absolutely dominated this race so far, looks comfortable and in control. Back on the road, Sip will try and clear that slowdown. Let's have a look at what happens to the Quantum Racing Mustang into the braking zone at 1 and just carried a lot of speed, grabbed the inside front and just found himself well off the road.
Yeah, not quite where you'd want to be. Brad Hayes now getting a little bit of attention from Harris, 23rd and 24th, just battling it through this sequence. It does really test the supercar tyres, especially, and really it's a tough one no matter what car you're in, but we know these tyres don't love extended cornering, and that's exactly what the Bend delivers. Harris is going to have a think about going up the inside here. He's going to have to be late on brakes. Hayes just squeezes him a little to the inside. They're going to be side by side through the turn. Harris is going to be on the outside here, so he's going to have to be brave again under brakes, whether he'll go for it or not. Hayes pulls it up just a little bit earlier, but parks it in exactly the right spot. But look at Harris dive back to the inside. Just has to pull out of that one and will stay behind Brad Hayes for now. But this battle continues in the latter stages of the pack and of this race. Further up through the field, Mark Poynton now being held to account by Troy Stonestreet. These two have managed to find their way back together. Absolutely nothing in this, so the battle on for the second and third step of the podium. 2 seconds back to Brian Borg. He's got a lot of work to do to get in amongst it, but still a fair bit of time to make that happen.
Yeah, lots of time to go in this one, and Troy Stonestreet, he certainly found a bit of something in this last stint, hasn't he? All over the back with Point and Borg not too far away from this as well, so they won't want to carry on for too long because that will invite Borg to the party, and Dean Logsdale as well could find himself a feature in this if it keeps going the way that it is going down towards the penultimate corners. And we're looking back now at Verban. This is Verban just in front. Is Paul Burns and Callahan, and just in behind is Tommy DeWitt. So this is a healthy little battle pack for the last few spots inside the top 20.
This is what we like to see, and the Bend is one of those tracks that doesn't always deliver really close racing across the longer stints. So it's good to see this starting to happen as those pit stops do fall into place and everyone just settles in for the last little stretch of their strategy. Callahan really just holding up Burns, Verban and DeWitt at the moment. Abel Verban, he struggled a bit tonight to make his way back through after that crash in race 1. He had to really try and fight back through and has had to do so again here through the field. He's up 7 spots from where he started, but just lacking a little bit of pace here in this second race. Darryl Callahan, for his part, up 10 spots from where he started this one, so can't be too upset about that. Other battles going on at the moment. Joel Lusterval has Nick Geary all over his tail. This is for 12th and 13th, and the Cup Trophy driver, Nick Geary, just putting on a little bit of extra pace here, maybe taking some tips from Mark Point. I don't know. Could be something to do with it.
Certainly could be helping him along the way, and he now's going to have a bit of a look up the inside. Under brakes, gets that done on Joel Osterwald. He should pull the car. There's a little bit of brake dust there from someone, a little bit of smoke, but I think everyone's okay. Stays on the circuit. Joel Osterwald has a bit of a think about a move into 3, but he's not close enough, and that's a lovely overtake from Nick Geary, taking a leaf out of his teammate's book and getting that move done into turn 1. And now looking back at Brad Hayes in 27th place. It's been a difficult night for Brad Hayes. He's got Alistair Bales just in front of him, Ash Hall not too far behind him. We're looking on screen now. This is Brad Hayes and Josh Harris. Something has happened here, no doubt. That's why we're seeing the replay. And there's contact up the inside, both of them. And unfortunately, I think there'll probably be a little bit of a conjecture about, more contact on the way through as well from one of the Quantum cars, but a little bit of a conjecture about who was at fault for that one. And that's why I'm very glad I'm not in the steward's box, because I don't have to make those decisions. I just get to sit back and watch the racing, which is very good for me. Not so good for the stewards. Paul Burns under a bit of pressure now from Abel Verban for 19th place. Darryl Callahan is hoping these two will battle it out to give himself a bit of breathing room.
Yeah, look, a bit of breathing room is exactly what you want at this stage of the race. Only 5 or so laps left to go, and I think Callahan will be pretty happy if the 3 behind could just sort it out amongst themselves and leave him well out of it. Paul Burns, though, not real keen on letting that happen. He's trying to just reel him in, and Paul Verban getting left behind just a little at the moment. Battle continues up at the podium end, Poynton and Stonestreet, and now Brian Borg enters our battle box as he gets within a second and a half. And the battle between Poynton and Stonestreet slowing them both down. Brian Borg just on the cusp of being considered in this battle, and I think it'll be only another lap or two at most before he's really solidly in there. You can see him closing the gap down to 1.2 now, and there he is just sneaking into frame.
Yep, he is trying to find his way in and just introducing himself slowly to this battle as it rages on. So Troy Stonestreet right in behind, and Mark Poynton, maybe there's a bit of tactics here. I don't necessarily want to put words or things in his mouth, but he certainly could be playing a little bit of tactics back. Troy Stonestreet up into Brian Borg, create a bit of pressure for him so it takes something off of the car in second place. Just anything. He'll take a little bit of pressure relief, anything to make it a little bit, these last 5 laps, a little bit easier.
And look at this early stage of the championship. Everything counts here as well, right? It's easy to think that when you're this early in the championship that there's not that much of a difference in terms of points, but an extra position here come the tail end of the season could be the difference between a podium or not. We've seen it come down to a very, very tight race over the last couple of seasons to decide the whole podium. And I doubt that this season's going to be any different, especially if we see this kind of racing keep up. Poynton, Stonestreet and Borg all right in amongst it. Would-be Cannon, look, masterclass out in front. 12.5 seconds at the moment over Poynton. It's certainly helped along by these three all battling it out here, but to be that far ahead at any stage of the race is just absolutely massive. And Would-be Cannon feeling obviously very, very comfortable here. If that's the sort of pace that he's going to bring to the rest of the Australian tracks, then these three will have a huge fight on their hands to try and keep him from waltzing away with this championship.
Yeah, there's certainly going to be a big ask for everyone to, and he's laid the benchmark. He has set the marker for what to expect as we move forward from Will Buchanan for the next 5 or 6 rounds, I believe, before we get to round 8 and move back over to America. But he is certainly going to make a name for himself this season, Will Buchanan, and dominance in this second race. I think that's the only word for it. Over 13 seconds now. We're looking at Paul Burns trying to find a way past Darryl Callahan, who had the pressure taken off him, with Burns occupied by Abel Verban. But now these two have sort of moved together in a forwards direction to close in to Darryl Callahan and share a bit of that pressure with him. And all of a sudden, Callahan, who was thinking, I might be in a good spot here, is thinking, oh no, they're all behind me. They're right there. I can see them. They're filling my rearview mirror. And Paul Burns will want to put a car between himself and Abel Verban, that is for sure.
Yeah, Darryl Callahan not making it easy though, really sitting smack bang in the middle of the track into turn 1 at the start of this lap, and forcing Burns to make a bit of a tough decision. He's ended up just staying in behind. So Callahan very, very much aware of the defensive work that he needs to do here. Burns, to his credit, not sending it where he knew he couldn't make it. He's just going to hang in there and use the time he's got left in the next few laps to really just look for a nice, safe way to get this done, as Callahan just collected a little touch of inside grass there. Nothing too concerning, but just taking as much out of that corner as he possibly could. Verban really just showing the nose in the mirrors, making sure that Paul Burns keeps an eye backwards as well as forwards in this race, and that'll be putting pressure on the 801 Sim driver to not make any mistakes. And of course that often brings them on, doesn't it, when you're concentrating on trying to be as error-free as you can while still chasing the person in front. It's a really tough thing to balance when you're already on the very, very ragged edge of the performance envelope.
Yeah, could not agree more. Once you're at that limit, it's really hard to go past it, especially if someone's limit is a little bit quicker than yours. And you try, and that's where mistakes can creep in. You find yourself just trying to carry that little bit more speed just to cancel out what they're doing in and around you. This is Chapman. He's in a bit of a sandwich at the moment. He's got Osterval in front of him, Luke Powell behind him, and he'll want to try and get past again. He would want to try and get past Osterval, make a bit of a situation for Joel where he has to try and worry about Luke Powell, because Luke Powell, we've seen him pull off some good moves this evening. We saw that mistake from earlier on, but he was in a strong position in the lead up to that. Craig Rose in the pit lane, a drive-through penalty. That will be, I believe, for incident points, as nothing has come through from the steward. So in the lane to serve that one. And look at Luke Powell all over the back of Tony Chapman. 3 laps to go out the line with almost 14-second lead now for Will Buchanan, but he has disappeared from what is a nice little battle pack forming in second and third place. This is also further down the field. A 10-second penalty for car 989. That is Josh Harris for that contact earlier on we saw with Brad Hayes. So that is the result of that contact, and they've decided that Josh Harris is in fact at fault for that one and will take 10 seconds added to his time post-race, which at the moment, having a look, will drop him down behind, almost behind Brad Hayes, maybe not quite, depending on how the next few laps go.
It's all heating up at the front here. Stone Street and Brian Borg go side by side coming out of turn 1, 2, 3. Stone Street still will be just on the inside here as we see a 5-second penalty for Brad Hayes in turn for contact with Troy Sipple all the way back on lap 23. Almost contact there from Brian Borg as he starts to drift a little wide. He really wants to hold the inside here, and that's going to send Troy Stone Street very wide. Can he recover and get a little bit of pace back in here? He's going to be stuck behind Borg, who moves up into third. But look at the gap that it's afforded Mark Point. All of a sudden, the three-way battle for second is really a two-way battle for third. Mark Point gets a couple of seconds to play with, and that's going to come in very, very handy indeed. Troy Stone Street just doing everything he can to hang on to the back here.
He's putting, he does not want to give up this podium that easily. Mark Poynton has disappeared up the road some 2 seconds, and there's not a lot of time for that gap to be made back up. So I feel like really this is it. If Troy Stone Street wants a podium back, he's going to have to do it on Brian Borg, because Brian Borg is not going to catch Mark Poynton before the end of this race if things continue the way they are. Because Poynton still has enough pace in that car that he can defend from where he is, and even if they do catch it, it'll probably be the last lap, and there's not too many overtaking opportunities around here if you keep your car clean and nail your braking zone. So Troy Stone Street, he won't want to lose track here. This is out in front, Will Buchanan. 2 laps to go, 14.5 seconds clear, and he's starting to lap his way through the field.
Yeah, and look, making it look very, very comfortable at the moment. Still keeping up the pace here. He's certainly not backing off it at all. But with 14 seconds of gap and only 2 laps to go here, I don't think you get much comfier than this, do you? It's a great place for him to be, and he's put on a real show tonight. Although we haven't seen much of him because he's been so far out in front that there's really not been that much to show. Jace Douglas and Joel Ustavala side by side further back, so there's still plenty of battles that are going on. And then, of course, not too much further behind them, this one continues. Callahan, Burns, Verban, DeWitt. Really, it's Callahan, Burns and Verban at the moment, with DeWitt and Hoffman just along for the ride in the background. But still nothing decided. Luke Powell side by side with Tony Chapman as they come down into the braking zone. It looks like Chapman will have the inside run. Can Powell do anything with this? He's going to have to leave it just a little bit wide, and Tony Chapman carries a lot of extra pace through there, picks up 13th spot. Luke Powell, to his credit, off into the kitty litter that's been spread onto the track. That's going to slow him down a fair bit, and there goes the contest with Chapman. It is unfortunate for Luke Powell tonight. He's up 18 spots in this race, so fair play to him. He's definitely made his way back up through the field after a pretty disappointing race one. But it's certainly not the finish that he will have been hoping for tonight either. Out in front, Brian Borg just starting to open the gap up a little on Stone Street. It's not much, but considering how much Stone Street was all over that rear bar just a couple of laps ago, it's really starting to fall off, and I don't know that Stone Street's got much left. Not so much in the tank, but on the tyres at least. Will Buchanan comes across the line. He starts the final lap. Mark Point not too far behind as he comes out of the final turn, and there's Borg and Stone Street just exiting that final turn as well as they start to catch up to, I believe that's Scott Perrins. It is indeed, as Poynton flies on past.
It is, and look, they're starting to stabilise these gaps now. There's a bit of a gap, there's a bit of a battle going on here. We just jumped to it. This is Callahan, Burns and Verban. This is continuing on down the field, but we've just started the final lap, so white flag out for Will Buchanan. Poynton has stayed the course, really. It's only 1.5 seconds between himself and Borg, and Stone Street is just under a second away, so he's not been able to keep up with Borg. So it looks like at the front of the field, provided no one makes any major mistakes, this will finish how it is. What's left to settle is these positions at the back end of the top 20. These guys have been going for a large number of laps now, and they're going to take this all the way right down to the wire.
Yeah, and there's, they're only just coming around onto the final lap now, which gives you an idea of just how far in front Will Buchanan is. I think, if I'm reading this correctly, is about 1:10 ahead of this group here. In fact, he's actually going through the corners that they negotiated not all that long ago. With only about a quarter of the lap left to go, finds himself still 14.5 seconds ahead of Mark Point. And the gap between Brian Borg and Troy Stonestreet now, really, there's not very much chance here that Stonestreet's going to claw his way back onto the podium, unfortunately. And it's been a great battle to watch right through this second race. But as it comes to a close, it's almost a little anticlimactic. But it does get that way. You know, a track like the Bend, once that gap opens up, it's very, very hard to bring it back again. Will Buchanan comes across the line. He collects the checkered flag here tonight, and a brilliant race for him. Mark Poynton will come through the final turn, and he'll pick up second place here this evening. Not too far ahead, we've got to say, from Brian Borg and Troy Stonestreet in the background. And just a little bit further back is Dean Logsdale, who comes across in 5th place, and the rest of the field start to filter through. Phil Manuel and Ricky Hyde coming across. Jason Bentz only ends up 6 positions there, and just ahead of Chad Vigar and Stephen Varga. A couple of battles that are going to come all the way to the line, though. Tony Chapman holds 3/10 over Luke Powell as they approach the second to last corner. I don't know if Powell's got anything left to give at this point, but he's certainly going to throw it in there. He's right on the tail as they come up to this final bend. What can he do coming out of this one? Tony Chapman's been very, very quick. Big slide from Powell as he tries to get the foot down. It's not quite going to be enough, and he'll come across the line in 14th as Buchanan carries on. I know we saw, who was it that was celebrating at the end of the straight there? Anyway, we'll catch them eventually. This group, despite all of the battle, doesn't look like there's going to be too much of a change here. They're going to come across in pretty quick succession, and it will be Darryl Callahan who holds on to 18th. Paul Burns, Verban, DeWitt and Andrew Hoffman not too far off the back there as we wait for the last of the drivers to come on through. But really, it's been Will Buchanan's night all night here tonight, and walks away with some very, very well-deserved points after a real masterclass in racing at the Bend.
Yeah, it was a beautiful night of racing, wasn't it? And Will Buchanan put the stamp on it. Look, he worked hard for his result in race number 1. Started on the front row, just missing out on a podium, and then took that and grabbed the race by the scruff of the neck and just drove off into the distance. Got the lead, turn 2 from Troy Stonestreet, and never gave it back. He disappeared up the road and takes the win by 14.5 seconds over Mark Poynton and Brian Borg, who round out your podium. We'll chat to those guys in just a little while. Troy Stonestreet, Dean Logsdale in the top 5 as well. Great result for both of those guys tonight. Dean Logsdale, great to see him bounce back after a difficult first week in Mexico. Phil Manuel in P6 for LMV Sim Racing as well. Ricky Hyde in position at number 7. That's a great result for him. Jason Bentz from the back of the field comes home to finish in the top 10. Could have been better, but a long time spent in the pit lane in that second stop. That cost him track position and was never really able to make it back up towards the end. Chad Vigar and Stephen Varga rounding out your top 10. James Hardy finishes 11th, once again just missing out. Nick Geary, though, takes the win in the Trophy Cup class in 12th place. And Tony Chapman, Luke Powell, and then Jace Douglas second in class for him in P15. Joel Osterval in 16th place. Brett Horsell, Gerald Cunningham, Paul Burns and Abel Verban. We saw that great battle at the end to round out our top 20. And then Tommy DeWitt, Andrew Hoffman, Trav Daly, Josh Harris in 24th place. Will have a 10-second time penalty. We'll put him just behind the car that is in 25th place, which is Troy Sipple. So Troy Sipple will get promoted a spot and move up into 24th. Brad Hayes will stay 26th, and Alistair Bales, Ash Hall finishing a lap down each, and then Scotty Perrins, Ash Hall and Scotty Perrins finishing a lap down, and then Craig Rose finishing 2 laps down. Rick Vigar with that disconnect or something strange that happened.
Whatever it was,
we weren't quite sure. Whatever happened for Rick Vigar, we did not see him feature again in the race, which was disappointing because he was looking pretty strong and pretty racy out there.
Yeah, he absolutely was. But anyhow, these things happen. Jane McKnight and Cole Cunningham not getting a start there this evening. But the man of the hour, we'll bring him on in to have a quick chat to us as we clear the results, and we'll bring him on in and have a quick chat. It's been from start to finish really tonight. Absolutely no one else really stood a chance here. Will Buchanan, welcome on into the booth, mate, and what a way to show us how to race at the Bend.
Hey guys, yeah, it was pretty probably not too great up to my standards. I felt the setup and I did not click tonight. It was good second race. Once I got into my groove, it was alright, but qualifying and first race felt no good.
Well, geez, mate, if that's you and the setup not clicking, then I don't know what else to say, because an almost 15-second win in the end there is pretty hard to argue with, and really had it all the way from the start here tonight. Got off to a cracking start, got ahead of Stone Street, and from there just about no one could touch you. So I guess the question remains, is this what we can expect from you over the rest of the season?
I mean, I hope so. That'd be good. I think tonight the biggest factor obviously was looking after the tyres. This track scrubs them very, very badly, so I just wasn't fully pushing, just wanted to maintain, and I was going off the first race. You could definitely see from the guys in front they were scrubbing the tyres a fair bit, so I knew if I just looked after them I should have an advantage there.
Well, mate, it looked pretty easy in the end, and walked away with a very healthy haul of points from round number 2. Mate, congratulations on a very, very impressive drive here this evening. Before we do let you go, anyone you want to say hello to, or any sponsors to give a shout out to before you head off for the evening?
Just shout out to the boys at RER, and also to our sponsors AITX, Shieldcoat, Sudspeed, Kibby, IR Sidekick, and Slady's Glassworks. All the work they do behind the scenes, we can't appreciate that enough. So thank you to them.
Well, great to chat to you. Thanks for dropping in to give us a bit of a rundown. And I'll be honest, I'm a little scared for everyone else once you find your groove with the setups, if that's what we're going to see for the rest of the season. But plenty of rounds left to go, mate. Keep the head down, and looking forward to chatting to you again in a round yet to come, I'm sure.
Too easy, guys. Take care.
Will Buchanan there takes the win a fair way back, but certainly in amongst it all was none other than Mark Poynton, who joins us now. G'day, Mark. Welcome back to the booth.
Thank you, mate. How are you?
Look, doing pretty well. You had a long way to go to catch Will tonight. He was just too quick, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Once he got out at the start of the feature race, he had very little competition, mate. He was very quick tonight.
For your part, though, a slightly earlier stop than the guys around you. Not much in it, only a lap here or there, but you had some work to do to hold them off. How relieved were you to see Borg and Stone Street fall into that battle behind you and start to drop away?
Like a kid at Christmas, mate. If it came down to sheer pace tonight, Troy was faster than I was, and I could see Brian and a gaggle of cars. I think Dean, Logsdale, and Phil was in that gaggle, and I could see him coming. And I knew if I could just sort of hold on to the position and I guess back Troy into that, I knew Brian wouldn't back down, and I know Troy won't back down either. So I thought that might give me some breathing room, and that's exactly what happened. So it worked out well.
Well, mate, it's paid off this evening with a nice little P2 spot in the feature. Again, some good points for you, so off to a pretty good start for the season. Obviously, a lot more Australian tracks to come. One more visit to an overseas location with Belle Isle. The news we've just heard from Will Buchanan in chatting to him is that he felt like tonight he didn't really enjoy the setup. It didn't really gel with him. So, any insights on how you're planning to try and reel him in if that's how he goes with a setup that doesn't click for him?
Might have to try and see if we can have a word to the organisers, roll this setup out every week then, if he did. But no, look, I think everyone will try to do their best. Will tonight was just super strong. Hopefully that's not a sniff of what's to come, but any of the top 10 really on their night is going to be tough to beat. So we'll hang in there and just race by race try and do our best.
Well, as always, a pleasure to chat to you, Mark. Before we let you go, anyone you want to say hello to, and then we'll let you carry on with your evening.
Mate, just a big thanks to you guys. Always enjoy watching the broadcast after the race. Big thanks to Race Control. They didn't have a lot to do tonight, which was good, but they always do a great job. And then to our sponsors, to Juiced Energy and Stodhor for their support.
As I said, always a pleasure to have you in the booth. This is Mark. Looking forward to chatting to you again at least once for the rest of the season, hopefully a few times, eh?
Sounds good. I hope to speak to you many more times.
Mark Boynton takes a P2 there in the feature race this evening, and the third step on the podium belongs to Brian Borg, who finds his way back into the booth again this week. G'day, Brian.
Hey guys, how are you?
Mate, doing all right. Race number one, fair bit of fun for you. Race 2 though, a bit of a rough start. Really put you on the back foot from the very beginning, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I guess it's just a reverse grid, like without saying. No, you know what? It's just what it is. Like, I tried to make
a new
my
challenge.
moves.
It's an extra challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I tried to make my moves early because once. You know, we all got the lead. I think it was in the first lap, and then that set up his race where everyone else is battling, and it is what it is. It was good racing, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. Look, I did want to ask, and we didn't quite see it at the time, but off the start line, I'm just wondering if you had issues getting the car moving or something like that, because we saw you drop, I think it was 2 or 3 spots from the lights. More than anything, Logsdale, Hyde and Vigar, I think, all got past you relatively early on. Was it just getting caught up in the pack into turn 1, or was there a bit of an issue just launching the thing tonight?
No, I had a good start, and I went on the outside, but I think something happened into turn 1, and everyone just went out wide. So just to not get any damage, I just went out wide with them.
Yeah, it's about all you
That's
can
why
do
I lost all the
sometimes, isn't it?
spots. Yeah. Yep.
Well, mate, you certainly fought through and made your way all the way back up through the field, and then a really impressive battle with Troy through what felt like, I'm sure for you, about 15 laps. And I don't know if it was quite that long, but you guys were really going at it for a while there. What was it in the end that gave you that advantage? Did Stone Street just overcook the tyres a little bit and couldn't keep with you anymore, do you think?
Well, I think it was around about a 5-lap battle, and I could see where he was fighting Mark, and I think his tyres got a little bit hot, and I was very good coming out of the left-hander. I think it's turn 6, just before the hairpin, turn 5, just before the hairpin, and that's where I got the move done. But you go offline and the marbles just, we both went out wide in turn 6 with the marbles.
Yeah, definitely a feature of the Bend. Despite being such a wide track, there's really not a lot of racing line to play with. And so, as you say, the marbles are just everywhere waiting to catch you out. Mate, a very, very solid night of racing once again for you. Some good points in your championship campaign, and it will certainly keep you up towards the top end of the field. Before we let you go, as always, an opportunity to just say hello to anyone you'd like, and a bit of a shout out for the sponsors, eh?
Yeah, just a big shout out to you guys for doing the broadcast, Race Control, My Same Mods, and TMB Cleaning, Authentic Car Detailing, just everyone involved. And once again, I'll give a shout out to my kids this week, Michaela, Renee and Talia. So big shout out to them.
Good on you, Dad. Well done, mate. Great race as always, Brian. Great to have a chat to you again this evening, and I'm sure we'll be speaking again, if not next round, then within the next few.
Too easy. Thank you, guys.
Brian Borg takes the third step on the podium here this evening, and that will wrap us up from the Bend. Another very, very good night of racing, and really setting us up here, Isaac, for what promises to be a pretty competitive season. I don't know what to expect from Winton next week. That track is one that really does present an entirely different challenge, just due to the much less flowing layout. I think it's going to be one that really does challenge drivers a bit.
Look, if that's the look, we haven't seen the best of Wood Buchanan yet, by the sounds of it, and I don't think we've seen the best of anyone yet, which means the best is yet to come from all of our drivers. And Winton, it's narrow, it's tight, it's twisty. We've been on wide, flowing, open circuits, and all of a sudden we're going to take away most of the track width, a lot of the room, and it's going to provide a big challenge with some large fields out here. Winton will certainly be a completely new challenge for our drivers next week. I'm looking forward to seeing how they go, that is for sure, followed up by going back to a nice wide open flowing circuit in Phillip Island. So next week at Winton certainly provide a challenge for our drivers, and by the sounds of it, Jared Cole, from pretty much everyone in that field, the best is yet to come.
Yeah, absolutely, and wouldn't be anywhere else on a Tuesday night, would you? Plenty of good racing still lies ahead. A massive thank you as always to Gard St. Cobain as the primary sponsor for the ASR Supercar Championship, and of course to Quantum Tint Solutions, AA West Automotive, Nicol Photography, and of course 24/7 Sim Services for their race control and support here each and every week. Lots of racing still to come next week. Kicks off the busy period for us here at Simple. Of course, we do have the LARC coming back Friday night this week, so don't miss that one. It'll be good to be back into the endurance style racing. But then from Monday night, the Trans Am Championship with MC Motorsport. Tuesday night ASR, Wednesday night GT3s. We are back into the full racing calendar once again, folks. So make sure you do stay tuned to Simple Racing Broadcast, whether you're here for that on Friday night or hang around and come back and see us again on Tuesday nights. Either way, it's always great to have your company. On behalf of myself and Isaac and everyone else here at Simple, a massive thank you for tuning in once again. We look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Until then, though, it's goodbye for now.